The two young men are either oblivious to or ignoring your entrance. Their attentions are fixed on whatever it is they're stacking in the matchboxes, it appears.
I think it's holding, Alexis.
It is.
Careful, careful. Damn, hardly any difference. You're late.
He should know the meeting starts at 10 p.m. sharp. Hey, Esteban, isn't that your...
It certainly looks like my jacket, Alexis. Where did you get that, gendarme? Yeah, I'm sure you did. That's real Saramaritan twill. Only old Saramaritan communists and drug... See, Uli? It's just like...
Those committed to the rights of property are those most apt to violate them.
I assumed it was Maurice who broke into my room to play a trick on me. I didn't think I'd actually been raided by the art.
There is surprise in his voice, naturally. But is that a note of excitement you also detect?
Absolutely not. Can you imagine the look on Maurice's face when he finds out the RCM has been kicked?
He'll shit himself. Positively.
And now they've sent one of their agents to infiltrate our meeting. The RCM wants to join us? Interesting. Does that mean you've done the reading?
Uh-oh. No one said anything about reading. You'll just have to wing this one.
Well, this is getting awkward. I'm not sure what you're expecting to...
There's profound consternation in his voice. You suspect it's about...
Maybe he can explain himself.
In the most general sense, I would say we're cultivating revolution.
Yes, that's probably the best way to describe it.
But more specifically, we are running a reading group. The most rigorous and theoretical...
Comrade Esteban is a great discussion leader. One of the best at the university.
It's obvious they take this group of theirs extremely... Yawn. Can you imagine anything duller than a bunch of Beano-clads yanking each other's knobs?
We have been known to get into some spirited debates, but it's always in service of our larger...
Precisely. We are not interested in senseless parroting. We like to
within the contours of Mazovian historical materialism, of course.
Huh. As though you can call that pablum teaching.
One thing you learn quickly at university is that you're not going to find a real education in...
We are post-attendance.
Exactly. The only worthwhile part of the so-called École Normale de Revachol is the library. That's where we've made our greatest critical strides. We study all the foundational texts of Mazovian theory, of course. Just last week we finished the second volume of Puncher and Watman's Innocence of Capital.
Truly extraordinary.
And before that we spent 6 weeks on State and Plasm.
Uh-oh. You can feel your attention span rapidly deteriorating. Your attention detaches. The voices of the young men fade away. It's a cool Your eye drifts over the detritus and mismatched furniture. It naturally gravitates to the way they billow in the night breeze reminds you of something. Yes, an image to get the blood pumping. The beast is you, a mass. You let the invigorating sensation course through you. Then turn your attention to the two young men.
And before that, there was Abelard's impatience.
But, of course, our special emphasis is on the theories of Ignaz Nilsson and his followers, especially the inframateria. Only Krasmazov's most trusted lieutenant, the evangelist of the revolution, and the founding father of the People's Republic of...
It's hard to overstate how unimpressed he is that you've never heard.
He also happens to be the greatest communist theorist after Mazov himself. It was Nilsson who first postulated the existence of ideological plasm, which forms the base...
Plasm? Huh? Sounds like a hell of a drug. The young man sighs. His companion looks about furtively. The young man frowns at the little pile of boxes.
Nothing, just messing around until the meeting starts.
They're watching those matchboxes awfully intently. It's almost as though they were trying to create the most with predictable results.
What do you mean? This is the reading group. We're in something of a rebuilding phase.
Some of our former comrades didn't have the ideological fortitude our work.
Intellectual attrition is maybe the best way to describe it. Felix said he couldn't keep up with the reading on top of his classwork. And Susanna wanted to read text other than Mazovian theory, like novels.
See? Even the gendarme gets it.
We've tried recruiting new members, but unfortunately the current intellectual climate is pretty hostile to inframaterialist thought. These days, if you're on the left...
Don't forget about Maurice and the turnips.
Right. Then there is the...
Whatever this turnip business is about, one thing is you could learn a thing or two from them. If you can convince them, you're one of them.
They're the most depressing school of communism. They love writing long books with a patina of Mazovian theory to cover...
A gang of cheap psychologists and intellectual midgets. Typical Gottwald.
It's okay for Uli to say that, because his dad is from Gottwald. The Gottwald school believe that intellectuals as a class are incapable of sparking revolutionary change. So all they can do is critique capitalism.
In other words, they have lost faith in their...
That's why they spend all their time smoking cigarettes and writing long works of criticism that make it is miserable. That's probably why they're always committing... You see, the Gottwald school look like communists. They talk like communists. But scratch the patina and you'll see beneath that they're... For starters, they love talking about beans. That's right. Iconoclasts are obsessed with beans. They love thinking about beans. They love counting beans. But most of all, they love building. They're by far the most bean-centric school of
Ah yes, the much maligned bean counters, ensconced in their think tanks and high-rises, believing they can save the world through a series of incremental, assiduously technocratic...
If only. They've got all the beans accounted for in their asset sheets. Their quarterly budgets, their future projects.
And next thing you know, there are budget cuts. So now we've got to cut the... You see, iconoclasts claim to be communists. But in reality, they're just liberals with hard-ons for spreadsheets. Of course not. The only people who actually call themselves liberals are mouth-foaming...
Basically indistinguishable from fascists. You'd need an X-ray machine to tell the difference.
Cindy is... How to
Something of an ideological
Yes. That's exactly how I would put it. And naturally, we support her...
But she refuses to submit an essay, so we can't call her a member of the group per se.
That doesn't stop her from using the room for studio space, of course. It's an unfortunate story. You see...
He's studying macro and...
Right. So a few weeks ago we were discussing the extra physical capabilities of the revolutionary state. And Morris said...
It was unbelievable. He said, turnips don't care if they are grown by communists, moralists or Vulcan. They grow just the same.
Basically, he was rejecting the whole foundation of inframaterialist theory.
What is this inframaterialist business they keep blathering about?
Simply that under suitably revolutionary conditions, crop yields naturally increase relative to non-revolutionary crops, which Morris somehow has the gall to...
Susanna said that he has been hanging out with some...
For us, the question boiled down to, if you don't even accept the basic ideas of Nielsen and inframaterialist theory, why are you in the reading group? Of course you do. It's pretty basic stuff. Well, it wasn't so much that he was expelled.
He just quit coming. We haven't seen him around for weeks.
Go ahead. We typically only accept new members once per semester. There's this whole process with essays and presentation, but given that we have some extra seating at the moment, I guess we could be convinced to expedite an up...
Stefan, you can't be serious. For gendarme?
I am serious. As materialists, we've got to adapt to conditions as they are. Besides, assuming he's even still interested, that is. Dawn returns.
Remember, where most people go wrong is in thinking another thing. These young men have the most exquisitely tuned insecure. Now, chin up. You've got this.
Oh, you want to start now? Sure, we can manage that.
You've caught him off balance. The momentum is already...
Go ahead and take a seat. Since we haven't had time to prepare an exhaustive questionnaire, I think we can keep it. Why don't you tell us a bit about the books you're interested in? And we'll just see where the conversation goes. Okay, we'll bite. What sort of stories are we talking about?
A real-life procedural, complete with gory details.
Sounds like old-fashioned revolutionary espionage.
You've got them. They're starting to loosen up. You're relaxed and in control.
But I still don't see what the lady driver had to do with a strike standoff. Clearly there's a lot of ins and outs. It almost reminds me of
Another quarter of an hour disappears. The conversation bounces back and forth. Now you can sense things starting to slow down. Time to wrap this tale up.
Makes sense. It doesn't seem like there's anywhere else she could have gone. I suppose we'll have to leave it there. But listen, gendarme. We could use someone with your breadth of expertise. With just a little more theoretical background, I think you'll be able to make some real contributions.
Yes, I would say he's got serious potential at least.
And with that, welcome to the most ideologically advanced materialist reading group in Martinez. Here's your first assignment. It's an overview of inframaterialist theory. A little basic, as you'll see, but one has to start somewhere. Come back when you're done. We'll be here pretty much every night after 10 p.m. Do be sure to take your time with the reading. We'll be eager to hear your thoughts. You're back. Yes. Let's get...
His companion leans forward. They're impressed that you dove right into the most advanced parts of the theory. Half an hour evaporates and the...
But my question is, where does the RCM recruit all these hyper-revolutionaries to join this remote viewers division? Fascinating.
A fortunate turn that the lieutenant isn't here.
But I suppose it makes sense that some common strain of inframaterialist thought would persist in the RCM, even to this day.
Has it gotten cold in here?
Well, on that note, I think we can call it an evening.
No, wait. Can this really be the end? You feel like you...
Yes. One of our better discussions lately, on the whole.
What do you mean, is that it? You've done the reading, we talked about it. What more do you expect from a reading group? Well, you could always ask.
He probably won't get a better chance.
But it's getting late, so maybe pick the most important question. Come on. We have things to do in the morning, so maybe pick the most...
The question you mean to ask is both very complicated and incredibly simple. The young man waits patiently for you to finish.
Yes?
The young man considers your word. You're witnessing his ironic armor melt before you. There's something going on in there. But his innermost sanctum is...
The theorist Puncher and Watman, not inframaterialists, but theorists nonetheless, say that communism is a secular version of Pericanasian theology, that it replaces faith in the divine with faith in humanity's future. I have to say, I've never entirely understood what they mean, but I think maybe the answer is in there, somewhere. Only in this very specific sense. Communism doesn't dangle any promises of eternal bliss or reward. The only promise it offers is that the future can be better than the past, if we're willing to work and fight and die for it. Nobody said fulfilling the proletariat's historic role would be easy. It demands great faith with no promise of tangible reward. But that doesn't mean we can simply give up. Even then,
Mazov says it's the arrogance of capital that will be its ultimate undoing. It does not believe it can fail, which is why it must fail.
Their faces blurred, yet frozen as though in ambrotype.
I guess you could say we believe it because it's impossible. It's our way of saying we refuse to accept that the world has to remain. Like this. Yes, that's a good way to think of it. Broken. A thought can be a very powerful thing. That's the whole idea of infommaterialism.
His words aren't really directed at you. He's wrestling with himself now.
Steban, it's getting pretty late.
You're right. We should clean this up and get going.
The young man frowned.
Nothing, just messing around.
They're watching. It's almost as though they were trying.
Wait a minute. We wanted to get your opinion on something. A few little changes we've been thinking of. Nothing too major, I think. We were talking potentially about relaxing some parts of our admissions process.
That's interesting.
I thought so too, but perhaps we overdid it. Just a little. There was another thing. We were also debating putting up...
Though some of us maintain that advertising is an unacceptably bourgeois tactic.
Exactly. I was thinking we could print them in the old communard style.
It does sound pretty cool when you just...
Plus, I've got the perfect... Put some more coffee on, Uli. We've got a long night ahead of us. We should probably get Cindy... Oh, and Gendarme. About that question you asked earlier. It reminded me of a certain poem that you might...
Ah, so he has read something besides it.
It was written by a young communard who was killed on the barricades during the coalition landings. The story goes that he wrote it on the last night of his life, keeping watch from the barricades in the middle of the night. I don't have the whole thing committed. In dark times, should the stars also go out? Anyway, good night to you.